I mean, you've given this fascinating overview of the amount of work that goes into a book like this. I'm very interested in this idea of nonfiction, true crime. Actually, the term true crime is sometimes a little bit frustrating, actually, because it fits into a specific part of the library or the bookshop or whatever. And in fact, perhaps I at least would want to make the argument that these books are more important for another reason. They're about the wider political economy of how the world works, how politics is influenced. I mean, do you have those kinds of frustrations? Why do you work and write in this area? What do you want to achieve?
Yeah, I think, as you say, true crime can be a problematic label, and it can kind of encompass a vast amount of different things. And what I sort of always wanted to do as a journalist and an author is to try and illuminate a little bit the sort of strange elements of the world, how they work, and things which often are very surprising. The world is a very strange place. It's a sort of huge cliche, but sometimes the truth can be stranger than fiction. People are absolutely stunned by some of these stories in that space. But I think it really interacts more also with things that people would consider kind of traditional non-fiction areas, like sort of geopolitics and history. These are understanding the way events in the world shape our surroundings. And I think in the case of this book, I was also very focused on trying to give an accurate depiction of this phenomenon to the point where it confounds certain expectations. So, in the sort of world of sort of narrativized crime, there are these expectations, especially in organized crime, of, these all-seeing, all-powerful bosses overseeing sort of very tightly run, centralized organizations, and everyone being actually really competent, the police being really competent, the criminals being really competent, and it all sort of working really quite well. And actually the reality is much more chaotic than that. And, in the book, there's a lot of scenes of criminals being just quite, incompetent and doing things for quite stupid reasons. One thing which really unifies all of these characters is that they, my editor made a joke, which I think is very accurate. He was sort of joking that this is also a book about middle management. This is a book about people who are in institutions who are just dealing with the sort of bureaucratic difficulties of being an institution, of being frustrated by the institution they're in, and people who've also devoted their lives in some way to the values and ideas of different institutions, be that US law enforcement or the Italian Mafia or Hezbollah, and ultimately those institutions betray them. This is not a book where everyone ends up super, happily living their life and vindicated. These are people who are often frustrated by the world they're in, and that applies across those institutions. So you see, a lot of the time, it's sort of the forces that these people are dealing with are bigger than them, and they're trying, like any human, to sort of somehow try and shape their own destiny and fate, in this sort of extremely, sort of like chaotic world they live in. And they come up against things which are too big and too powerful for them to really control. So in the simplest sense, just trying to organize from scratch a very audacious transatlantic cocaine shipment, you're trying to sort of wrest control of your own destiny and eventually failing. And so that was sort of what I was trying to capture, rather than the expectations of, sort of everything just being extremely slick and perfectly run and masterful.